Why did you stop when everyone else kept walking? The woman's voice was calm, but beneath the question lived something deeper, something that sounded like years of disappointment wrapped inside a single sentence. Ryan Walker stood quietly beside her on a park bench overlooking Lake Michigan as the late afternoon sun painted the water gold. He looked out across the shoreline instead of answering immediately. The wind moved gently through the trees. Children laughed in the distance. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Ryan smiled faintly. That is a longer story than you think. Olivia Bennett lowered her head slightly behind the dark glasses she always wore. Most people recognized her name. Very few recognized her now. Fewer still understood what had happened to her life. Yet the man sitting beside her had never treated her like a billionaire, a celebrity, or a headline. He treated her like a person. That was exactly why she could not stop thinking about him. Ryan folded his hands together and looked down at the ground. His work boots were worn. His jacket had seen better winters. Nothing about him suggested wealth or influence. Yet somehow he carried himself with a quiet confidence that many powerful people lacked. Olivia waited patiently. She had spent years surrounded by people eager to talk. Ryan was different. He only spoke when he felt there was something worth saying. 2 days ago, Olivia said softly, I fell in the middle of a crowded sidewalk. Ryan nodded. I remember. Hundreds of people were there. Probably. Some stared. They did. Some looked away. They did that too. Olivia turned her face toward him. But you stopped. Ryan exhaled slowly. The question seemed simple. The answer was not. Before he could respond, the sound of waves brushing against the shoreline filled the silence between them. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked. A bicycle rolled past on the path behind them. The world continued moving exactly as it always had. Yet for both of them, everything had changed. Olivia tightened her grip on the walking cane resting beside her leg. The memory remained painfully clear. The crowded downtown street. The unexpected stumble. The cold concrete beneath her hands. The embarrassment. The loneliness. The feeling that she had become invisible despite standing among hundreds of people. Then one voice had broken through the noise. One stranger had asked if she was all right. One stranger had chosen compassion when nobody else did. Ryan finally looked toward her. For a brief moment, emotion crossed his face. Not pride. Not satisfaction. Something gentler. Something rooted in experience. Like I said, he replied quietly, it is a longer story than you think. Olivia waited. Ryan looked back toward the lake. The sunlight slowly faded across the water. And as the evening settled around them, the story of how a struggling single father and a blind billionaire crossed paths was about to begin 48 hours earlier on a crowded Chicago sidewalk, where almost everyone kept walking. 48 hours earlier, Olivia Bennett stood alone inside a luxury penthouse overlooking the Chicago skyline. From the outside, her life appeared extraordinary. Financial networks discussed her decisions every day. Business magazines praised her leadership. Investors trusted her judgment with billions of dollars. Yet none of those things could restore what she had lost. The city stretched endlessly beyond the glass walls, but Olivia could no longer see it. Darkness had become her permanent companion 3 years earlier after a sudden medical condition changed everything. At first, she fought against it. She hired specialists. She traveled across the country searching for treatments. She listened to experts who promised possibilities and probabilities. Eventually, she learned to accept a truth she could not change. The blindness remained. What surprised her most was not the loss of sight. It was the loss of certainty. People treated her differently. Some became overly protective. Others quietly doubted her abilities. A few saw her as a weakness rather than a leader. Over time, something else changed as well. She stopped trusting people as easily as she once had. Too many conversations felt calculated. Too many relationships seemed connected to her wealth. Too many smiles disappeared the moment business interests were removed from the equation. One Monday morning, Olivia sat through another executive meeting. Voices filled the conference room. Charts were presented. Projections were discussed. Every decision seemed connected to money, growth, expansion, profit. The discussion lasted nearly 3 hours. When it finally ended, Olivia remained seated long after everyone else had left. The silence felt refreshing. Her assistant gently approached. You have interviews scheduled this afternoon, she said. Olivia removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes out of habit. Cancel them. All of them. All of them. The assistant hesitated. The board will have questions. Olivia smiled faintly. They always do. Later that day, she made a decision that shocked almost everyone around her. She stepped away from public appearances. She reduced her schedule. She instructed her executive team to handle operations without her direct involvement for a short period. Officially, she called it a personal retreat. Unofficially, she was searching for something she could not quite name. During the following days, she moved through the city without bodyguards, media attention, or corporate protection. Most people had no idea who she was. For the first time in years, she experienced ordinary life. She listened to conversations in coffee shops. She rode public transportation. She sat quietly in parks and restaurants. What she discovered surprised her. Some strangers were kind. Some were impatient. Some ignored her completely. The experience slowly confirmed a belief she had been trying to avoid. Wealth could buy comfort, influence, and security. It could not guarantee genuine human connection. On the afternoon before everything changed, Olivia found herself walking through a busy downtown district. The sidewalks were crowded. The air carried the sounds of traffic, conversations, and distant construction. She moved carefully with her cane, listening to the rhythm of the city around her. She had no idea that within the next hour, a single moment would test everything she believed about people and introduce her to a man unlike anyone she had ever met. While Olivia Bennett was questioning the people around her, Ryan Walker was too busy surviving to spend much time questioning anything. Life had become a series of responsibilities that began before sunrise and often stretched long past sunset. His small apartment sat above a laundromat on the south side of Chicago. It was not impressive, but it was clean, warm, and filled with reminders of the person who mattered most to him. Every available shelf held photographs of his 12-year-old daughter, Ava. Some showed school events. Others captured birthdays, science fairs, and ordinary afternoons that had somehow become precious memories. On the morning before their paths crossed, Ryan woke at 5:30 as he always did. He prepared breakfast, packed Ava's lunch, and reviewed her homework while coffee brewed in the background. Outside, the city slowly came alive beneath gray winter clouds. Inside, the apartment carried a sense of routine that had been built through years of perseverance. "Do you think I did well on my math test?" Ava asked while tying her shoes. Ryan smiled. "I think you worked hard. That matters more." She laughed. "You always say things like that." "That is because they are true." Ava grabbed her backpack and headed toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back. "You are coming to the school presentation next week, right?" Ryan did not hesitate. "I would not miss it." After she left, the smile faded slightly. The rent was due in 10 days. The transmission on his aging truck was making new sounds every morning. Medical bills from years earlier still appeared in the mailbox with frustrating regularity. None of those problems disappeared simply because he remained optimistic. Yet Ryan refused to allow bitterness into his home. He had learned long ago that difficult circumstances and personal character were not the same thing. During the day, he worked maintenance for a commercial property company. The job was physically demanding but steady. He repaired equipment, fixed plumbing issues, and handled whatever unexpected problems appeared. Coworkers often noticed something unusual about him. No matter how busy he became, he always seemed willing to help someone else. That afternoon, an elderly tenant struggled to carry several boxes into an elevator. Ryan immediately stepped forward. "Let me get those for you." The woman smiled gratefully. "You do not have to do that." Ryan shrugged. "Maybe not, but I can." Later, one of his coworkers shook his head. "You help everybody." Ryan laughed softly. "Not everybody." Close enough. The truth was simple. After losing his wife years earlier, Ryan had discovered how much a single act of kindness could matter. Strangers had delivered meals. Neighbors had watched Ava when emergencies happened. Teachers had offered support. Compassion had carried his family through some of their hardest days. He never forgot it. By late afternoon, his shift ended. Ryan gathered his tools and headed toward downtown. The sidewalks were crowded. The air felt colder than usual. People hurried between office buildings, focused on schedules, meetings, and destinations. Ryan joined the flow of pedestrians without realizing that only a few blocks away, a blind woman carrying a cane was about to stumble in the middle of that crowd. And within minutes, a choice that seemed small at the time would quietly change both of their lives. The downtown sidewalks were crowded with people rushing toward their next destination. Business professionals checked their phones while walking. Tourists studied maps. Delivery drivers pushed carts through the flow of traffic. Everyone seemed focused on somewhere else. Olivia Bennet moved carefully through the noise with her cane guiding each step. The sounds of the city surrounded her from every direction. Car horns echoed between buildings. Footsteps crossed the pavement in endless patterns. Conversations drifted past and disappeared. Normally, she navigated these situations with confidence. Years of adapting to blindness had taught her patience and awareness. But on that particular afternoon, a construction crew had temporarily altered part of the sidewalk. Warning signs had been placed nearby, yet they blended into the constant noise of the city. Olivia adjusted her path slightly. A moment later, the tip of her cane struck an unexpected obstruction. Her balance shifted. One foot landed awkwardly against uneven pavement. Before she could recover, she stumbled forward and fell to her knees. The impact was not severe, but the shock left her momentarily disoriented. Her cane rolled several feet away. For a few seconds she remained still, listening. The crowd had noticed. She could hear it in the sudden changes around her. Footsteps slowed. Voices lowered. Someone whispered. Another person muttered something before continuing on. Yet no one approached. No one asked if she was hurt. No one offered assistance. Olivia felt a familiar disappointment settle over her. It was not the fall itself that hurt. It was the silence surrounding it. Dozens of people stood only a few feet away. Still, the city kept moving. Then one voice broke through the noise. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Olivia turned toward the sound. Strong footsteps approached quickly. A moment later, someone knelt beside her. "Take your time," the man said calmly. "There is no rush." Ryan Walker picked up her cane and placed it gently within reach. His voice carried no pity and no awkwardness, only concern. Olivia accepted the cane and steadied herself. "I think so," she replied quietly. Ryan offered his hand. "Let me help you up." She hesitated briefly before accepting. With one smooth motion, he helped her return to her feet. Nearby pedestrians immediately resumed their routines as though nothing had happened. The moment had already become yesterday's news to everyone except the two people standing in the middle of it. "Thank you," Olivia said. "Of course." Ryan looked around. "Do you need help getting somewhere?" Olivia could have said no. She had spent years insisting on independence. Yet something about his tone felt different. There was no assumption that she was helpless. Only respect. "I was trying to reach the coffee shop on the next block," she admitted. Ryan smiled. "I am heading that direction myself." Together they began walking. The afternoon wind moved between the buildings while traffic hummed in the distance. Neither realized how unusual the moment truly was. To Ryan, he had simply helped someone who needed assistance. To Olivia, he had become the only person in an entire crowd who chose compassion over convenience. And as they disappeared into the busy streets of Chicago, neither could imagine how important that small decision would soon become. The coffee shop sat on a quiet corner sheltered from the rush of downtown traffic. Warm air and the scent of fresh coffee greeted them as Ryan Walker guided Olivia Bennet through the doorway. A few customers worked on laptops. Others talked softly over drinks. The atmosphere felt calm, almost disconnected from the crowded sidewalk where they had met only minutes earlier. Ryan helped her find a seat near the window before stepping back. "Would you like me to order something for you?" he asked. Olivia smiled faintly. "That would be nice." A few minutes later, he returned carrying 2 cups of coffee. Olivia listened carefully to the sound of the cup being placed on the table. "Thank you," she said. "You have thanked me 3 times already." Maybe because nobody else stopped. Ryan looked uncomfortable. It was not a big deal. Olivia turned her face slightly toward him. Maybe it was. For a moment neither spoke. Outside, pedestrians moved along the sidewalk, each carrying their own worries and responsibilities. Inside, a strange sense of peace settled between 2 people who had been strangers less than an hour earlier. "Do you live nearby?" Olivia asked. Ryan laughed softly. "Close enough." That sounds like a polite way of avoiding the question. Maybe it is. The answer made her smile. Conversation flowed surprisingly easily after that. They talked about Chicago winters, favorite restaurants, and childhood memories. Ryan never asked personal questions. He never seemed curious about her finances, her career, or her background. In fact, He appeared completely uninterested in the things most people immediately wanted to know. Olivia found that refreshing. Eventually, she reached into her purse and removed a business card. "I would like to repay your kindness," she said. Ryan immediately shook his head. "That is not necessary. Please." "No," Olivia laughed softly. "You said that very quickly." "Because I mean it. Most people would not refuse." Ryan shrugged. "Most people are not me." The simplicity of the statement caught her off guard. She had spent years surrounded by negotiations, contracts, and transactions. Everything seemed to have a price attached to it. Yet sitting across from Ryan felt different. He had helped her because she needed help. Nothing more. Nothing less. After a while, Ryan checked the time and stood from his chair. "I should go." Olivia looked disappointed by her own reaction. "You have somewhere important to be?" "My daughter is waiting for me." The answer instantly softened her expression. "You have a daughter?" Ryan nodded proudly. 12 years old. "Smartest person I know." Olivia smiled. "She is lucky." Ryan thought about that for a second. "I think I am the lucky one." Before leaving, he pushed the business card gently back toward her. "Keep it. You are really not taking it." "No," Olivia shook her head in disbelief. "You are unusual, Ryan Walker." He laughed as he stepped toward the door. "I hear that sometimes." Then he disappeared into the late afternoon crowd. Olivia remained seated long after he left. The coffee slowly cooled in front of her. For the first time in years, she found herself thinking less about business and more about a single father who had asked for nothing, expected nothing, and walked away without even realizing he had become impossible to forget. Olivia Bennett told herself she would forget about Ryan Walker. The promise lasted less than 24 hours. The following morning, she sat in her penthouse office listening to executives discuss quarterly projections, acquisition opportunities, and expansion plans. The voices around the conference table sounded familiar, but her attention drifted elsewhere. Numbers filled the presentation screens. Analysts debated forecasts. Advisors discussed market trends. Yet Olivia found herself thinking about a modest coffee shop and a man who had walked away from both gratitude and opportunity without hesitation. When the meeting ended, she remained seated while everyone else filed out of the room. "Is something wrong?" her assistant asked gently. Olivia smiled. "No, just thinking." The assistant nodded and quietly left. For several moments, Olivia sat alone in silence. Then she reached for her phone. "Can you find information on someone for me?" she asked one of her trusted staff members later that afternoon. "Nothing invasive, just public information." Within a day, she learned surprisingly little. Ryan Walker worked maintenance for a commercial property company. He lived with his daughter. He had no social media presence worth mentioning. No interviews. No publicity. No signs that he had ever tried to attract attention. The simplicity intrigued her. Curious became fascinated. A few days later, Olivia found herself visiting a neighborhood community center where Ryan occasionally volunteered after work. She arrived quietly, without publicity or announcement. From a distance, she listened more than she spoke. Children filled the gymnasium with energy and laughter. Volunteers organized activities and educational programs. Among them was Ryan. He moved through the room carrying folding tables, answering questions, and helping wherever needed. Nobody treated him like a hero. Nobody applauded. He simply showed up and did the work. At one point, a young boy struggled to assemble part of a science project. Ryan immediately sat beside him. "Let us look at it together," he said. The boy smiled. A few minutes later, they had solved the problem. Later, an elderly volunteer dropped several folders while organizing paperwork. Ryan helped gather every page without being asked. Olivia noticed something important. The kindness she had experienced was not unusual behavior for him. It was normal behavior. He treated everyone the same way. Wealth did not impress him. Status did not influence him. Need was the only thing he seemed to notice. Over the following week, Olivia crossed paths with him several more times. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes by coincidence. Each encounter revealed another piece of the same picture. She saw him helping a neighbor carry groceries during a rainstorm. She saw him repairing a broken wheelchair ramp outside a local church. She saw him encouraging Ava after a difficult school presentation. Every moment reinforced the same truth. Ryan's character was not situational. It was consistent. One evening, Olivia sat alone in her penthouse overlooking the city. The darkness beyond the windows mirrored the darkness she lived with every day. Yet something felt different now. For years, she had believed wealth revealed the true nature of people. Ryan challenged that belief. He had very little compared to the people she normally encountered. Yet somehow he seemed richer in the things that mattered most. As she rested her hands on the cool surface of her desk, a quiet realization settled into her heart. The man who had helped her stand up on a crowded sidewalk was slowly helping her stand up in another way as well. He was restoring a piece of faith in humanity she thought she had lost forever. The moment Olivia Bennett decided to tell Ryan Walker the truth, she discovered something unexpected. She was nervous. That feeling alone surprised her. For years, she had negotiated billion-dollar agreements, addressed shareholders, and made decisions that affected thousands of employees. Yet the thought of revealing her identity to one honest man felt strangely intimidating. Perhaps it was because his opinion mattered. A week after their first meeting, Olivia invited Ryan and Ava to attend a charity event hosted by one of her foundations. She described it as a community appreciation gathering and offered free tickets through a local outreach program. Ryan almost declined. He rarely attended formal events. Ava, however, immediately became excited. "Please say yes," she told him. "I have never been to anything like that." Ryan smiled. "Then I guess we are going." The event took place inside a beautifully restored historic building overlooking the Chicago River. Soft music filled the room. Community leaders, educators, volunteers, and local families gathered beneath sparkling lights. Ryan felt slightly out of place in his best suit, which had been worn only a handful of times over the years. Ava, meanwhile, appeared completely comfortable. She admired every detail and asked endless questions. Olivia arrived quietly through a private entrance. Her elegant white dress and dark glasses immediately attracted attention. Conversations shifted. People moved respectfully aside. Ryan noticed the reaction. Something felt different. "Dad," Ava whispered. "Everyone knows her." Before Ryan could respond, the event host stepped onto the stage. The room gradually settled into silence. "Tonight," the host announced, "we celebrate the leadership and generosity of someone whose vision has transformed countless lives." Ryan listened politely. Then he heard a name. Olivia Bennett. The room erupted into applause. Ryan froze. Slowly, he turned toward the stage. Olivia stood and walked forward with practiced confidence. The audience rose to its feet. Cameras flashed. Executives smiled proudly. For a moment, Ryan wondered if he had misunderstood what he was hearing. Then the host began listing accomplishments. Billion-dollar companies. National recognition. Philanthropic initiatives. Suddenly, every unanswered question made sense. The penthouse. The mysterious schedule. The subtle security presence he had occasionally noticed. The business card she never pushed him to accept. Olivia was not simply successful. She was one of the most influential business leaders in the country. After the presentation ended, Olivia found Ryan standing near a balcony overlooking the river. The evening lights reflected across the water below. For several seconds, neither spoke. "You are upset," Olivia said quietly. Ryan shook his head. "No," surprised. He laughed softly. "Very." Olivia lowered her head slightly. "I should have told you sooner." "Maybe. You feel like I lied." Ryan considered the statement. "You never told me who you were." "Exactly. But I never asked." Olivia looked up. Silence settled between them. Then Ryan smiled. The same calm smile she had seen from the very beginning. "You are still the woman from the sidewalk." Olivia felt emotion rise unexpectedly inside her chest. "That is all." Ryan nodded. "That is all." For years, people changed when they learned who she was. Some became intimidated. Others became ambitious. Many became artificial. Ryan remained exactly the same. Looking out across the Chicago River, Olivia realized something profound. The man who had helped her stand up in the middle of a crowded sidewalk was now helping her believe that her identity could be larger than her wealth. And somehow, that meant more than any business success she had ever achieved. The days following the charity event brought a quiet change neither Olivia Bennett nor Ryan Walker expected. Their conversations became more frequent. What had started as a chance encounter slowly developed into genuine friendship built on honesty, respect, and shared values. Yet Olivia could not ignore something she had noticed from the beginning. Ryan carried burdens that would overwhelm many people. He never complained about them. He simply kept moving forward. One rainy evening, Olivia visited the community center where Ryan volunteered. The building was nearly empty. Most of the children had already gone home. Only a few volunteers remained cleaning tables and organizing supplies. Olivia sat quietly while listening to Ryan help finish the last tasks of the day. Eventually, they found themselves alone in the main room. The sound of rain tapped softly against the windows. "Can I ask you something?" Olivia said. Ryan smiled. "You usually do. How long have you been working 2 jobs?" The question caught him off guard. He hesitated before answering. "About 6 years." Olivia remained silent. Ryan understood what she was really asking. "After my wife passed away, I needed the extra income. Ava was young. There were bills. Life happened. And you never asked anyone for help?" Ryan laughed softly. "I asked for help when I truly needed it." Olivia lowered her head thoughtfully. The answer sounded exactly like him. Pride was not driving him. Dignity was. During the following week, Olivia spent considerable time thinking about what she had learned. She knew something Ryan did not. Her foundation had been preparing a major expansion focused on community development, youth programs, and family support services. The initiative needed leadership. Not corporate leadership. Human leadership. Someone who understood struggle. Someone people trusted naturally. Someone whose actions matched their words. Every time she considered the requirements, the same name came to mind. A few days later, she invited Ryan to lunch. They met at a small restaurant overlooking the river. After casual conversation, Olivia placed a folder on the table between them. Ryan looked down curiously. "What is this?" "An opportunity." He opened the folder and slowly read the contents. The position involved overseeing community outreach programs throughout Chicago. The salary was more than he had ever earned. The responsibilities were meaningful. The mission aligned perfectly with everything he already believed. Ryan stared at the pages for several seconds before looking up. "This cannot be real." Olivia smiled. "It is very real. You are offering me a job. I am offering you a chance to help even more people." Ryan closed the folder carefully. "Olivia, I do not have executive experience. That is not what I am looking for. There are people far more qualified. There are people with more impressive resumes." Olivia replied. "That is different." Silence settled between them. Rain continued tapping against the windows. Finally, Ryan spoke. "I do not want charity." Olivia's expression softened immediately. "Neither do I." The answer came without hesitation. "I would never disrespect you that way." Ryan listened. "You earned this opportunity long before we met. I simply recognized it." For several moments he said nothing. Then he thought about Ava. He thought about the long nights, the second job, the missed opportunities, and the future he wanted to build. Most of all, he thought about the possibility of serving people in a way that truly mattered. Slowly, a smile appeared. Not a smile of relief. A smile of purpose. And for the first time in many years, Ryan allowed himself to imagine a future larger than survival. 6 months later, the Community Outreach Initiative had transformed more lives than anyone expected. What began as a single program expanded into multiple centers across Chicago. Families received support. Students found mentors. Parents discovered new opportunities. Volunteers filled classrooms, workshops, and meeting spaces with energy and hope. At the center of it all stood Ryan Walker. He approached leadership the same way he approached everything else in life. One person at a time. One conversation at a time. One act of kindness at a time. The title on his office door had changed. His character had not. Every morning, he still walked Ava to school whenever possible. Every afternoon, he made time to speak with families personally. Every evening, he looked for ways to help people feel seen and valued. The difference now was that he had more resources to make a meaningful impact. On a bright spring afternoon, the largest community center held a celebration honoring volunteers, educators, and families who had contributed to the program's success. Sunlight streamed through tall windows. Children laughed while moving between activity stations. Parents shared stories of progress and gratitude. The atmosphere felt warm, hopeful, and alive. Olivia Bennett arrived quietly as she preferred. Although many people recognized her, the attention no longer mattered as much as it once had. She listened to conversations around the room. She heard stories of scholarships earned, careers launched, and families strengthened. Each story reminded her why she had started searching for something more meaningful in the first place. Across the room, Ryan stood beside Ava as she proudly demonstrated a science project to a group of younger students. Olivia smiled. "She sounds just like her father," one volunteer whispered nearby. Olivia laughed softly. That is one of the highest compliments possible. Later that afternoon, guests gathered for a brief ceremony. There were no elaborate presentations, no grand displays of wealth, just sincere gratitude. As people settled into their seats, Olivia was invited to say a few words. She slowly approached the microphone and stood before the crowd. For a moment, she simply listened. The room became quiet. People often ask why this program succeeded, she began. Some assume the answer is funding. Others assume it is planning. She paused. They are wrong. The audience listened carefully. Olivia turned her face toward the crowd. The reason it succeeded is because it was built by people who genuinely care about others. Her voice softened. And because one person chose to stop when everyone else kept walking. Ryan immediately lowered his eyes. Ava smiled knowingly. The room remained silent. Olivia continued. Months ago, I found myself alone in the middle of a crowded city. I needed help. Hundreds of people were nearby. Only one person stopped. She smiled gently. That moment changed my life. The audience looked toward Ryan. He appeared slightly embarrassed by the attention. Olivia understood exactly why. He had never helped people to be recognized. He helped because it was the right thing to do. After the applause faded, the celebration continued. Conversations resumed. Children laughed. Music played softly in the background. As the afternoon sun began to set, Olivia and Ryan found themselves standing near the entrance of the building. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Olivia asked the question one final time. Why did you stop? Ryan looked toward Ava talking with friends across the room. His answer came quietly. Because if my daughter ever needed help, I would pray someone would stop for her. Silence followed. Not awkward silence. Meaningful silence. The kind that settles over a room when everyone suddenly understands something important. And in that quiet moment, Olivia realized she had finally found what years of success had never given her. Not wealth. Not influence. Not achievement. She had found proof that kindness still existed. And sometimes, that was the greatest miracle of all.